Hey, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I'm here today to talk about the new 4K of Trancers. Now, this is from Full Moon Features. This is Charles Band's soiree into the 4K format. And before we get to the transfer and of the movie and stuff like that, let me just give a tiny little history lesson. I am a really big Full Moon and Charles Band fan. He basically dictated what I watched as a kid. I rented all his movies, fell in love with Puppet Master, Subspecies, all that stuff. As I got older, I got into the Empire catalog, which is actually what this is, but I'll explain a little bit of that as we go along. So, essentially, why Charles Band is putting out Trancers and not, say, Scream Factory or Arrow Video or another company is because when Charles Band basically bankrupted Empire Pictures in the late 80s, he got a deal to basically get a buyout and lose his catalog of films, mostly that he did under the Empire banner. But he did have a little bit of a deal to acquire to continue and own some other properties. Trancers was one of those properties, along with, I believe, Robot Jox, where he was able to do a sequel to that film, which Empire had Robot Jox, and then Full Moon Features did Robot Wars. But Trancers would fall under Charlie's umbrella, and he was able to retain the rights to Trancers, I believe, and he also did Trancers sequels for Full Moon. He did a number of sequels, Trancers 2, 3, 4. If something works with Charlie, he does sequels, which I love him for that. So that's why Trancers is under the Full Moon umbrella. Just thought it'd be cool to know that in case anybody was wondering. But yeah, let's just say a few words about this movie, because I gotta say, Trancers is one of my favorite 80s movies. It really is. It's actually really smart. Here's the funny thing. There's actually a Quentin Tarantino quote in the back. It says, "Trancers is effing amazing. To tell you the truth, and it has one of the most original concepts of time travel I've ever seen in any movie ever." I would agree with that. I think that Trancers is awesome. The first thing I'd say about Trancers that Tim Thomerson doesn't get enough love in the same way that we give Tom Atkins, that middle-aged, cool, sexy guy, you know, kind of like you want to hang out and be with him vibe. Tim Thomerson is every bit as awesome as Tom Atkins is, and Trancers is the best example of that. So Trancers is basically a sci-fi time travel horror film, because what happens is the Whistler, who's this evil guy, gets back into 1980s. They're way in the future. They're in the 2200s. And the Whistler, who is the evil man, goes back in time, and he kind of invades the political landscape of Los Angeles. He takes over the police force, and he turns people into Trancers. Now, Trancers have the look and feel of human beings, except when they're in the vision of Jack Death, who is played by Tim Thomerson. They just lose it, and they turn pale white, and their lips turn blue, and they become maniacal, just monsters, and Jack has to take them out in order to get to the Whistler. The thing that's so great about the character of Jack Death is he does everything on impulse. There is a moment in the film where they have the Whistler in his actual body in the film, and Jack is not supposed to harm that body. That way they can trap the Whistler back in 1985 and get him to teleport basically back to his human body, and Jack says, "Screw that SOB." Boom, he just shoots the actual body of the Whistler, so the body he's invaded back in 1985, there's no place for him to go back, so Jack has to go back to 1985 to stop the Whistler. I'll stop with the storyline right there in case you haven't seen it. Did I mention Helen Hunt? A young Helen Hunt is in Trancers, and she is so lovely in this. This was 1984, so she had to have been early 20s at best. And Jack Death, the character, is the mid-40s, so it really is a lot like Halloween 3 with Tom Atkins and Stacey Nelkin. You know, questionable by today's standards, but it was the 80s. Who gives a rat's ass? I love this movie. It really is an entertaining, awesome Charlie Band Empire picture. Great cast, good performances, especially for the type of movie it is. Everybody's in it to win it. Just an awesome movie. Stellar, awesome movie. I love Trancers. If you haven't seen it, I'm telling you, it's classic. You'll absolutely dig Trancers. It's such a good horror movie. It's also technically a Christmas film. So, yeah, it's the perfect time of the year to watch Trancers. So, as we talked about, this is the soiree of Charles Band getting into 4K. And unfortunately, I don't have the best report on this 4K. This is what I'll say about the transfer of the film. There are moments of almost brilliance, like the diner scene. You really get to see some great 4K imagery, and you really can see the depth in the image, and everything has that great density, and it's got that pure raw 4K, no filter, great look. And then the irony is, like, I remember I was really excited to see the scene after the diner scene where Jack Death is on the beach, and it just looked fine. It looked like the Blu-ray. As a matter of fact, it looked identical to the Blu-ray because I have the Blu-ray, and for most of the film it's going to look that way, but then there'll be moments of, you can certainly notice there's a beautiful upscale and it's 4K, and a lot of it is the low-light stuff, which is weird, like when Jack Death is basically around his upper echelon people. There's the old woman and his boss that kind of give him his orders and stuff. Those scenes, it's weird how they'll look really, really good. And then we go back to 1985 with Helen Hunt and all, and most of that stuff just looks fine. Some of it you can notice a little bit of uptake and upscale, but it's just really uneven. And I'm not sure why that is, because as far as I know, Charlie has the availability to get to all his negatives and things like that. And the interesting thing is, William Lustig, I listened to the Charles Band podcast where William Lustig, who runs Blue Underground, and we know how great all those 4Ks are, it sounded like William Lustig aided Charlie in getting this process done. So I'm not exactly sure what the deal necessarily is. So the scan on this technically is the best way to watch this film, because like I said, there are going to be moments where it's like, oh wow, that looks really good, like the diner scenes, and then the scenes where Jack Death is talking with his upper echelon bosses and the old woman who's basically like the head honcho in charge of the time travel, setting the rules, blah 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 for him. You can really see her skin tone, and it's like, wow, okay, that looks great. But then a lot of it just looks like a Blu-ray, so a little unfortunate. Technically though, this is still the best way, I think, to watch Trancers. It's just a little uneven, so if that bothers you, maybe the Blu-ray will still be the best for you, but it is what it is, unfortunately. A bit of a bummer, but here's one big positive for me, and I'm not trying to just make excuses because I'm a little bummed out by the transfer. I have to watch movies with subtitles. I always feel like I'm missing out sometimes with pieces of dialogue, and I don't know exactly what was said or what happened, and I always freak out about that. So I love watching movies with subtitles. Thank God this finally has subtitles. For some reason, none of Charlie's Blu-rays never had subtitles. I don't know if he didn't go through the trouble of wanting to get that done, but finally, subtitles are on this. Thank God. So I'm able to turn those on. And the special features, I'll show the screen right now for the special features. It's all good stuff. There's a great documentary, some featurette stuff, behind the scenes stuff. They're both on the Blu-ray and the 4K, which makes me wonder, why did he do that? I would have been much better preferred if he would just take all the special features and put it just on the Blu-ray and leave more space and memory open for the movie for possibly less compression or something. I don't know the technical term for it, but you would think that the 4K would just be the movie and try to space out all that space on the disc, and then put all the special features and on the Blu-ray by itself, but they're ported on both discs. So it's like literally you get the 4K disc with the special features, then the Blu-ray disc with the special features. So that's something interesting. Maybe for the future with like Puppet Master 3, for instance, we can just do the 4K film on the 4K disc and put all the bonus features on the Blu-ray. I think that would be the better way to go, and that could possibly aid in the upper scaling of the film as a total. I could be off on that, but I certainly don't think that would hurt. So a weird report on this, because like, do I recommend picking this up? First of all, it's pretty pricey on Amazon right now, so don't buy it from there. If you're a big fan of this film, I would say grab it, because for me it's the best release, because there are moments where the film looks great on 4K. They're fewer and farther between rather than the majority of the film, but the subtitles are a big bonus for me. Thank God. I'm so glad that's finally happening with these films. And, you know, the bonus features are good. Charlie is certainly going to port over everything he has for these films, which is great. So anticipate a lot of those video zones and stuff like that on, like, Puppet Master 3 and all. But certainly check Full Moon Direct to get it from them. Check the other websites, like the good people over at MVD, and other websites, because Amazon's just the priciest right now. But it's weird. I'm gonna go thumbs in the middle on this release, with hope and optimism that the future Full Moon 4Ks will learn from some of the mistakes maybe from this, and get us back on the right track, because I think the Full Moon catalog in 4K can be extremely special, especially because of the fact that Charlie is basically going in a direction of just putting out the fan favorites. Like, I understand going Puppet Master 3 next, because it seems like most people love Puppet Master 3 more than any other Puppet Master. I'm personally a Part 1 guy. That's my favorite, but I love Part 3, so I understand that. And getting Subspecies and Castle Freak, these films can be stellar and gorgeous on 4K. Let's just do it right. Pit and the Pendulum. So let's just hope that, you know, this is, you know, a mediocre start for the 4K jump, but hopefully we're gonna just go straight up from here. So thumbs in the middle with the Trancers 4K release. Some things were done right, some moments of the film look great, but overall a little to be desired on the picture quality. So there it is for me, guys. I'm a diehard fan, so I love Trancers, and I'm glad to have this, but certainly think about it. There is my review for the new Trancers 4K from Full Moon. Let's hope that we go up and we raise the stakes higher with the Full Moon catalog for 4K soon. But I will say, Trancers is an amazing film, so if you don't own it and you want to get the 4K, I guarantee you one thing: you're going to love the movie. It is awesome. I really love it. Zero complaints about Trancers. It really is that good. So there it is, guys. Trancers, the first 4K from Full Moon. Let's hope that Puppet Master 3 is even better. Thank you to all my supporters on Patreon. To get behind-the-scenes photos, videos, and music, you can subscribe to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month.